Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm pleased to welcome you all to our third and final guest lecture for this week, hosted by the product folks. Our guest lecture today is Ms. Shivani, a 2020 computer science passer from NIT Trichy, an accomplished product manager with a vast experience. She was awarded the overall Outstanding Student of the Year in her college and has worked across several teams and clubs. With experience in a top firm like Microsoft as a product manager and formerly a software engineer, Ms. Shivani will be discussing on how each of us can prepare for the upcoming PM roles. With that, I warmly welcome you, ma'am.
Hey, hi Mukesh. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, I hope we can get started. We're really looking forward to have an interactive session with everyone. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions, guys. And with that, the stage is yours, ma'am.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mukesh. And thank you, everybody, for joining. And thanks to the team for organizing this. I think it's really commendable that you're coming together as a community to prep for PM roles. This was not very common even a couple of years back. So, really kudos to the team that's organizing this. I am on presentation mode. I hope you can see my slide. Can you all see my
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes.
And you can hear and see me fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm on presentation mode, so I may not be able to monitor the chat. So if there's anything, any disruption, do let me know. Uh, all right. With that said, I know Mukesh gave an introduction about me, but I will just recap my professional experience chronologically. I graduated from NITT with a BTech in CS in 2020. And during my undergrad, I did software engineering internships at Microsoft in 2018, at Rubrik in 2019. I also did machine learning and big data internships in startups in IIT Madras Research Park during the winters. um, Rubrik was my on-campus placed internship, and I had a full-time offer also from Rubrik. But I also had a full-time offer from Microsoft off campus, which is what I ended up choosing. And I joined Microsoft as a software engineer in July 2020. And for a quarter, less than 2 years, I worked as a software engineer. And then I transitioned to the role of a product manager in Microsoft. So now I am a PM with the Microsoft Cloud for Manufacturing team. So we create products, particularly for the manufacturing industry vertical, using the Microsoft clouds, which are Azure, Office Cloud, and Power Platform. So, like Mukesh said, right, I think this session will make a lot of sense if it's interactive. You ask your personalized questions from you to me, because there's a ton of resources online about the PM role, about preparing for PM interviews, and so on and so forth. So, I would really see this lecture as inspiration. Like I touch upon what is the PM role, what skills do PMs typically have, and what skills are expected of you, and about the interview process. But it can only scratch the surface, right? There's so much of resources and practice that you ideally should be doing on your own. So this should be an inspiration for that, and let's look forward to just more of interaction after I go through my material. That said, I want to start talking about the PM role and the skills that are expected or are typically there in an ideal PM. And I want to talk about these skills for two reasons, right? One is if you're on the fence of if product management is for you and you hear about these skills and you feel that you have these or exhibiting these skills at work will really make you feel like you're thriving, and then hence product management is for you, then to help you evaluate that, and more importantly to help you identify which are your strengths, which skills do you have a gap in, and hence how can you upskill in those circles that you probably have a gap in. So that's why I want to talk about the skills that a PM typically has. Before that, I think you already had a lecture on the product management role itself, so I won't go into too much detail. And it's also not a very well defined role, honestly. I think it's the most differently interpreted role in different organizations and different teams. So, like I said, I recently, a year back, I moved to product management from engineering in Microsoft. And when I was interviewing with different teams within Microsoft when I was interviewing for a product management role, itself I could see the difference, right? Like I used to interview with the Azure MySQL team. So this is a database on the cloud on Azure. And the role there was very technical, in the sense that every day I would be talking in terms of database operations, backup, recovery, etc. And Azure MySQL is a very stable product. So it's all these technical improvements catering to developers and architects, sort of a product management role, versus the role that I currently am in right now. This team was just getting started when I was being hired. So we didn't even have a product. We did have a clear, we know this is the product we're going to build. So I had to research the industry of manufacturing and talk to customers, go to factories, and then come up with this problem area sounds interesting. And hence, let's start with this product that solves these problems. And then, most importantly, execute that with engineering and delivering it to customer, working with sales, marketing, etc. So in this entire spectrum that I just spoke, many different companies and different teams within companies might really focus on different parts of the journey. It's rare that you get to do all of this as a PM, but I just want to put it out there. But fundamentally, there are some things for a product manager, like I said, working with engineering, defining the product, what features go into it, prioritizing it, how to launch a product, when to launch a product. So product manager, right? Managing products is the core theme of this role. So, coming to the skills that the PM has, first, obviously, the product skills, like I just mentioned. Are you able to come up with who are the users of the product? What are the actions that the users will do on a product? Which is, what are the features of the product? How can I prioritize these features? How will I test a feature? So, all these core product skills are very crucial for a product manager. Apart from these core product skills, there are also some allied business skills, like when can I go to market with this product, how can I go to market with this product, how much is this product costing me, and what should I price the product at. So there are and how can I market it, what is the unique selling proposition, how will I talk to salespeople to sell this product. So there are business aspects also that come in to your job as a product manager, and hence business skills that are looked or asked for a product manager. And then there's some technical skills which are good to have in a product manager, even though you're not, coding or designing solutions as a part of your daily job. You are going to interact with engineering. You're going to define things that need to be implemented by engineering. So thinking in terms of those engineering modules, those technical architectures definitely helps you. Gets you the credibility from engineers. It really uh, helps you to know what is the fundamentals of a service, about APIs and whatnot, right? If your developer says, okay, can we package it as a library, then you need to know what a library essentially means. So a fair amount of technical skills are essential for a product manager in software. And then there's industry skills. So, like I said, I work in a team that develops products for manufacturing customers. If you're, going to work in a financial services product or a healthcare product, then you need to have those industry skills. Now, I think these are of all these skills here, these are very well expected that you can learn on the job. Nobody uh, expects you to already have these when you come into the job itself. So yeah, industry skills are also important for a product manager while doing the job. And last but definitely not the least is leadership and execution. Because as a product manager, you don't have engineers reporting to you, but they are the ones who need to get what you conceived and what you prioritize done, right? So if you say this is a priority, then they need to act on that priority and build it out for you. So working with engineers and working with upper management, working with a lot of stakeholders is a part of your job as a product manager. So those leadership and execution skills, right, executing and getting the product out on the set date is very important in your role as a product manager. So these are about the skills that are given here. Let's spend some time seeing how can you show that you have these skills, or how can you get these skills and then show that you have these skills, right? So in my case, I think I had a very technical background. I was almost 2 years as a full-time software engineer. All my internships, uh, projects, everything was very technical. So I didn't have to explicitly show my technical skills there. But say for product skills or for business skills, I took to hackathons in Microsoft, to show my product skills. Because in companies like Microsoft, typically, what needs to be done as a software engineer comes from hierarchy. So in opportunities like hackathons, I get to think of my own idea and come together as a team and implement it. So that is somewhere where I'm showing my product thinking skills and building a product. And not just hackathons at Microsoft, right? Even back in college, I was a part of Spider. So when we are doing projects for Pragyan and other competitions, even though we're tech clubs and focused on learning new technologies and implementing them, more often than not, there's a problem that we are solving with that particular project that we are doing. So in college, we don't have the luxury of having a product manager and an engineer. So we do the product management as well. So these are all great proofs of work for me to show where I've been a product manager, where I've exhibited those product skills. So on that note, for you also, as you're in college now, all these independent projects that you do, be it as a part of a club or as a part of a course in your, if it's part of your curriculum, or just you come together as friends and you do a project, or just do a solo project, right? When you have a problem that you're solving through this project that you're doing, that is product management. So showing this work, it's a great proof of work to show your product skills. And mm, it does not necessarily need to be a technical project. If you run a community and you have a good structure to that, if you run a newsletter, if you write a blog, and you have a cadence of writing a blog, you have a way to bring in subscribers, monetize it, and whatnot, right? Anything, uh, even things that are not technical, like a blog or newsletters, also can count technically as products and showing your product skills. And personally, before I went to product management, I did a course on digital product management on Coursera from the University of Virginia. um, Primarily, I wanted to learn what is this PM role all about, and what are these. There are a lot of gaps, at least, which are not taught in be it undergrad or as a part of my engineering role. I don't learn all of these frameworks and concepts that typically product managers need to know. So I did a course on product management. So I guess that is also something to show for my product skills. And another activity that helps you develop your product skills is product teardowns. I think TPF is does that pretty well. So um, take up any product and tear down the features, the user personas, how you can improve some, what are the competitors like, right? So yeah, doing these product teardowns and perhaps publishing it somewhere in your blog or on LinkedIn is all going to just make your skill as a proof of work, so that you can show it and have something to talk about when you're interviewing. So that's about product skills. Coming to technical skills, right? As I said, I my background is entirely in CS, so I have very naturally had the technical skills and a lot of work to show for it. But if not, if you're from, say, I don't know, chemical engineering, and if you're into case contests and you have a good business background, but not so much to show for technically, or you need to upskill technically, I highly recommend that you learn a bit of coding, right? Even though it's not, as I said, not needed as a part of your everyday responsibility as a product manager. um, if you can quickly learn to create an app and implement, even if it's a tutorial app, and I think these days you can do it in a day or two max. it, I say, changes your life. It really, a, feels very powerful for you that you created this piece of software that can do this bit, this piece of logic. But b, it also shows you how software is actually built, right? And it's not trivial. It's not something that's very easy to learn. But if you do it, you really get to know, oh, there are layers like this which are structured this way. Oh, this is what a service is, and it's on the back end. And I need not run it on my computer always. If I had to make it run on another computer, I probably need to host it somewhere. Oh, these clouds give me the options to host it, and they cost me this much, so this is what is going to cost me if I wanted to run a website. It really teaches you a lot of things, which I think is very important, and fundamental to know. So yeah, do a technical course like in software development or basic coding. You could do data science and machine learning projects as well for starters to understand the and get into the head of a coder or an engineer. But do, if you can, just try to create an app. And once you've done that, once you've put it out there, that's again proof of work that you have these technical skills. And if I look at your resume and I see that technical skills is not what really shines out of your resume, and I am apprehensive if you will be suitable for the role, then this fact that you have tried it out, you've got this, you can learn it and you can do it, definitely goes a long way. So that's about technical skills. Business skills also a little similar to product skills. Through courses you learn mainly these frameworks, right? If you need to market a product, what are the things you need to consider? If you need to price a product, what are the things that you need to consider? And similar, like business model teardowns. How does XYZ company make money? Analyze the competitors of XYZ company. So yeah, these exercises will definitely learn, make you learn these business skills. And just like the product skills, if you can publish this somewhere, then well and good. But it's important to just be aware of these jargons and concepts. And simply put, business skills are all about knowing the frameworks, so that given any strategic problem, you're not lost or clueless, but you have somewhere to start with, what to start thinking about. You need to first start thinking about your users, or you need to start first thinking about the company and its values, right? So that's what the business skills are all about. Industry, as I said, it's more of a reverse, in the sense that if you are very passionate about say education, and you want to really shine that out when you're interviewing with an ed tech firm, or when you're going to be a PM at an ed tech, then it's more of a match and a fit. I wouldn't unless you have a dream firm which is a fintech or an ed tech, or something like that, you can upskill on that industry. But for most big tech and most generalist software firms, it may not be very, it may be the least skills to upskill on among the ones that are here. And last but not the least, leadership and execution, right? I think you have ample opportunity when in college, especially in a college like NITT. I think this particular group here has so much opportunity by virtue of the clubs, the fests, the cultural teams, being a CR. I think there's so much opportunity for us to show leadership and execution that I think we all take for granted. That will really shine out, and give you so many stories to tell, and develop your leadership skills when you go out into the industry for a PM role. So yeah, PORs, be it in clubs or a project that you lead, right? These are all going to speak for your leadership skills. And I think we get to execute a lot of things in college, which are really great opportunities to talk about and show these leadership and execution skills. So that's it. This is about the PM role and the skills, and we can talk more if you have any particular questions on the particular upskilling aspects that I spoke about. But next, I'll be talking about the PM interview process, which fortunately, for a field like product management, is similar to the work that you do in product management itself. And this is not a thing that I take for granted, because, like I said, I was a software engineer before, And the work that goes into software development is, slightly pretty different from the interview process for software development openings, if you're aware of. So you're tested on data structures and algorithms, and these are some things that you mostly don't are not directly reflective of the work that you do as a software engineer. Similarly, there are some other roles where they ask you aptitude questions or puzzles, but the role might be about something entirely different. But these are all valid hiring mechanisms for whatever reason. But for product management, fortunately, for most parts, it's, if you enjoy interviewing for product management, you're going to enjoy the role as well, and vice versa. So the product management interview is also going to revolve around how can you show these skills that I just spoke about. How can you show, tell stories of times you led a team, you executed. How can you quickly design a product and advise on when to release it or how to market it, etc. So yeah, the PM interview has a few set of questions which are very popular, or the meat of the interview, right? One is the behavioral questions. So as a PM, it's not just a purely technical, in the sense that it's not just your hard skills, but also your soft skills and how you're with people, how you're with focus and execution, that matters as a PM. So you're asked behavioral questions, and these can take many forms, like starting from your introduction, right? Um, Starting from just a quick introduction and hearing your story. Why do you want to do product management? Because it's not, the majority track. If majority takes software engineering or whatever your core engineering is, then product management is different. So why do you want to do product management is a very popular question. I don't think a lot of people will ask, why do you want to be a chemical engineer or a computer science engineer, like a software engineer, after you've done those majors. But why do you want to do product management is a very popular question. So these are basic general behavioral questions. And you are also almost always asked questions about, tell me about a time when you showed initiative, tell me about a time when you took a risk and how did that go, tell me about a time when you had to convince a bunch of people to do something, tell me about a time when you failed, when things didn't go your way, and how did you deal with it. So behavioral questions are a really important aspect of the PM interview, and they give you, a chance to show yourself, your persona, your individuality, your uniqueness, and your passion for product management and the product. The second bunch of questions I have here, right, the product design questions, those are the meat of the interview. The majority, I would even go so much to say 80%, 80 to 90% of the interview is going to be about product design questions. Your interview will be centered around the product design questions. And these are going to be like design X for Y, design an alarm clock for the blind, design a bookcase for children. It could also be, what is your favorite product and why? And or how would you improve that favorite product of yours or some other product. And these, if you're hearing these for the first time, then the way you answer it will be very different from the way you answer it after you've prepared answering these questions following certain structures, right? If you were having a conversation with your friend or with your family, then how you answer what's your favorite product and why is very different from how you would answer it in an interview, because you want to show some of your, that you're an insightful person, that you think in a structured way, and you've very well reasoned why this product is your favorite or why this is your design for a new product. So yeah, I'll elaborate more on how you can prepare to answer behavioral questions and product design questions in a bit. But the last two buckets that you see here, estimation questions and technical questions, these are rare in my opinion and experience. But for the sake of completeness, I have them here. Estimation questions are to test if you have, again, a formula or a way to structure things. When I ask you things like how many laptops are sold in India every year, and again, technical questions, depending on the role, depending on the team, you might be asked like, okay, so if you were to choose a database for storage, what are the different considerations that you would have to choose the type of store that you want to store your data in, right? Uh, so these are all high level buckets of questions. And like I said, behavioral questions and product design questions are the meat of the interview, with product design questions really being the vast majority of the duration of the interview. I'll go a little bit deeper into how you can prepare to answer behavioral questions, right? And the first kind that I said, it's your introduction, and I'm titling it as the 2 minute pitch because I don't. I mean, I strongly recommend not going anything more than 2 minutes. 1 to 1.5 minutes is great. Maximum 2 minutes. Otherwise, it can really, sound very monotonous and not interactive. So, and I'm sure it you can really bring out an engaging story and tell your story in 2 minutes. So when you're preparing your 2 minute pitch, this is how I would go about preparing for it, and I think that you should be super prepared with this, well, practiced and rehearsed, because it's an obvious question that you know that they are typically going to ask, right? So how you could approach this is list down all the points about you that you want to say. This could be your accomplishments, and accomplishments don't necessarily mean awards or ranks. It could be a project that you did, any role that you took up, just anything that you think is interesting and unique and is superlatively talking about you. So collect all these points about you. It could be your hobbies also. Try to make it as interesting and memorable as possible, because this is a great opportunity for you to stand out. And if your pitch is really memorable, then you're going to stand out. From an interview point of view, I think being memorable is super important. So yeah, collect all these points about your professional accomplishments, your hobbies, and your passion, right? Why did you do certain things? Collect all of these, and then connect the dots to tell an engaging story. While an okay pitch is to just walk through your resume saying, I did X, I did Y, I did Z in that order, that's an okay pitch. That still serves the answer of introducing yourself. But if you can make it more memorable and more coherent by really telling a story of, I first did this and then I was really interested and passionate about this, and so I took this up, and this grew into this, and I was also interested in this while my hobby led me to this, and both intersected into this. Just coming out and telling a very engaging story matters a lot. So that's about the introduction pitch and how you can prepare for it. I can't repeat enough. Do uh, prepare very well for it. This is a question that you know is going to be asked. So rehearse it, but don't sound rehearsed, obviously. But yeah, just practice it a lot. And this is one question that you should know that you have the best answer to. The second part of behavioral questions that I want to talk about is many different types of questions where they want to know how you behave in certain situations, how have you behaved in certain situations, right? So these are the questions like, tell me about a time when you took initiative, took a risk, or how did you convince a room of people to do something, uh, and so on and so forth. So for this, here's how I would strategize it. First, have a list of all your stories. Take a good amount of days. List down, every you know position you've been in, every project you've done, uh, every story that's worth telling. And on first glance, at as college students, don't expect to have really turnaround stories, but we and the one interviewing also understands that we're all college students. So anything at this level would work. So just think about it. You could also take the approach of list all the qualities that you want to show, right? I want to show that I'm a very determined person, that I have grit, that I work with a diverse team. So just think through things that you want to exhibit, think through your stories and do a match between them. And so yeah, ultimately have a list of all the stories that you want to tell, and want to tell as in, if asked for these particular qualities, I have all these stories to tell. How I dealt with weakness, how I dealt with a tough team member. Try to preempt these qualities that are usually looked for, or situations that are asked about. There are tons available on the internet, so you can make a list of those and try to have stories corresponding to that, so that when you're asked that in the interview, you know what you're talking about. And this story also, when you're narrating it, this is a framework, this is a structure that I will recommend to use, and I personally use, is start with the summary, which is like the short answer to the question, right? If the question is, tell me about a time when you took initiative, and the summary could be something like, sure, let me tell you about the time when I started a knowledge sharing initiative in my club. So that's it. That's the short answer. I get that this is the story that you're going to tell. Um, but what's most important is how you tell that story, right? You start with, what was the situation before you did that? Maybe people were, there were different levels of knowledge of people. People were not productive because the ones who knew were doing everything, the ones who didn't were stalled, they didn't get the opportunity, whatever. So you tell about the situation for a good while, and then the most important part is the action. So, what did you do differently? Why weren't people doing this already? What was that cool thing that you did? Tell about your action, and then tell what this resulted in. So because of this, we are now having regular knowledge sharing sessions every week, and with this much of participation. So I really got people to, how did you get people to volunteer, how did you get people to participate, and how did this maybe increase the productivity of your projects. So this is just a fictitious story that I'm saying, but any story, I think, works very well if you have this situation, action, result sort of structure, of course, preceded with a quick summary of the story that you're going to tell. Um, and having a structure, as you see in the rest of the questions, also is very helpful, so that you don't blank out on when any question is asked, right? For your existing story, structuring this way brings out the effect the max. But even if if it's a question that you've not prepared for, this gives you a structure to think in terms of, what situation do I want to talk about, so that you're not all over the place and you have a structure to answer the question. So that was about behavioral questions. Next is the product design questions, which, as I said, is the heart of the PM interview. So the most common form of this question is design X for Y, design a bookcase for children, design a note-taking app for college students, design an edutainment app for kids, right? So these kind of questions are most uh, common. Sometimes the for why is not there. Like just design an edutainment app, and then it's your job to find out who you're designing it to, etc., which we'll come to as we discuss the framework. So for these questions, the preparation that you can do is two. One is have this framework, right? This, what I've given, is something that I stick to and I follow when I am answering a product design questions. There are many frameworks available in different books and online. There's this framework called the Circles framework, which is in the Cracking the PM Interview book, or the Decode and Conquer book, I guess, which is a variant of this, just with better acronyms that you can memorize. So what's important is you have your own way of understanding the framework, but these core things are going to be the same. Like, you need to talk about the different personas, you need to talk about the solution, you need to prioritize it, etc. So having a framework is the first, and internalizing it is the first prep that you can do to answer product design questions. And second is to just practice as many questions as you can, so that you know how you use this framework, and how, it's, I think it's an exercise for your creative muscle. If you keep mock interviewing and trying out these different product design questions, your creative muscle is exercised and you're at your best during the actual company interview. So that's it. Let me go through this particular framework that I have here for product design questions. Let's take this same example, this design an edutainment app for kids, right? Whenever any question is thrown at you like this, uh, as I said, if you're not into product management interview prep, I think uh, people I would start answering by entertainment app for kids. Oh, I will have a lot of games in it. With games could have a leaderboard. I'll have a community of people I know, and you could go all over the place without really bringing, and you might miss out on some things that you might have thought of or clearly conveyed had you had a better structure. So that is the main reason why we have these frameworks and structures and insist them while answering these questions. So, yeah, when a question like this is given, first always ask clarifying questions uh, to make sure you're not missing out any detail, you're not assuming anything, and that you and the interviewer are on the same page, right? So, when like, do you and I mean the same thing when we say edutainment? So say, hey, I think edutainment means XYZ, so it should have an educational component as well, but it should not be like a book, it should be fun. So, this is what I mean by edutainment. And when I say kids, like kids is a very interesting group of people, because you can't even say 2 to 10 year olds, because what a 2 year old wants is very different from what a 10 year old wants and does. So yeah, clarify, when we say kids, do we mean like 5 to 7 year olds? What do we mean, right? You typically ask clarifying questions, clarifying the scope, clarifying the goal, like what is the goal of this this app that we're building. Do we want to just have more people, or do we think of like a revenue model through some sort of purchases? So clarifying those things up front helps. And you could, is this Microsoft which is doing this app, or is it like a startup that's doing this app? In which case it's very different, right? How an app would be built. So what a big company would prioritize on is very different from what a startup would prioritize on in this segment. So yeah, ask clarifying questions about the goal, the scope, if there are any constraints, like is it in India, is it, where is it? So these can definitely make sure that your assumptions and the interviewers are on the same page. And it also gives you some time to think through and internalize the question even better after you've asked these clarifying questions. And don't ask very open-ended questions like what are my goals, who are my user personas, right? It's your job to come up with them. So you preempt and say, I think that the goal is this. Is that right? Can we assume that the user persona is 5 to 7 year old kids in urban locations, right? So you've got to come up with them on your own and make sure that your assumptions are vetted and in line with what the interviewer has. So yeah, after you've asked your clarifying questions, you will have clarity on your goals if you've clarified that. If not, if it was a very clear goal, then you can state it, like, okay, so our goal is to increase engagement of the kids, or our goal is to increase revenue. So you choose a goal. You're almost always free to choose your goal. So choose a goal such that you're going to tie your solutions. When you prioritize your solutions, right, you'll have to tie to which is going to contribute the most to this goal. So if it's a revenue, it's going to be a different feature. If it's going to be just engagement, it may be a different feature that you prioritize. So yeah, define goals and define the user personas. For and there are so many ways in which you can define and categorize your user personas. It could be simply age and things like that. It could be like I said, kids in an urban location. So the needs of them are going to be different from kids who are not so exposed to gadgets and gizmos in say a rural location. But for some reason you might want to target them, right? So uh, defining the user personas and choosing the focus group is very important, and telling why you're focusing on that group is a major part of this third step, where you're defining the user persona that you're going to be focusing on. So after you've asked your clarifying questions, defined your goals and users, you need to discuss what are the needs or what are the problems that these users have, right? And one feedback that I got from a mock interview that I did was, don't give off a feel that you're talking about some third person, like, oh, let's say it's a Spotify app that I was, or a Kindle that I was, talking about, and the user persona was an avid reader. And if I am not an avid reader, it, don't be in a very third person, detached away from the user. Have a lot of empathy for the user, like put yourself in the user's shoes, and that should come out when you're discussing these needs and problems, right? Uh, it should really feel like your needs and problems when you're enumerating these. And user empathy is one of the biggest things that is looked for in product management interviews and is important as a product manager. So, yeah, do wear the hat of that user persona and discuss what all needs and problems you have. So, one of the related users for this edutainment app for kids is probably going to be parents. So, their concerns could be around screen time. The kids' needs is going to be something that's that's fun and that's gamified, that's that has a social aspect as well, that just makes them feel good. So you have a way to structure and discuss, okay, what are the needs and problems of these different users who are going to be using the app, and then design solutions for each of them. For this need, this is probably a good solution, or for each need you might have multiple solutions. But yeah, once you've discussed what are the problems, the pain points, or the needs, and you come up with features, solutions in the form of features, I always recommend having one moonshot idea, which is to show your creative peak. In this example, it could be an AR feature that uh, brings up their favorite, cartoon character while teaching a lesson. I'm just making this up, but yeah, like, show your creative peak. It may not be the most practical idea, the most prioritized idea, but it shows that you're aware of these technologies, you're aware, and you're willing to push your limits to make the product bigger, better, cooler. So do put out a moonshot idea anytime you're tasked with product design questions. And of course, then you prioritize when this idea might, the moonshot might not make it, but just let it be put out there to just show your thinking. You prioritize through these different solutions. Like, you might have spoke about 5 features, but you need to design your product should ultimately have only 2 focus features, right? So how do you prioritize is something that is looked at. What are you using to prioritize? Are you prioritizing based on how much impact each of the solution will have, how much effort it takes to build, how differentiating is it from what the competitor has, how basic of a need is it, right? So clearly explain why you are prioritizing a feature and then prioritize that. And you're also probably going to prioritize based on the goal, and the goal can translate it being can easily be translated into a metric. So there are many popular metrics that you might have seen. So there's something called a net promoter score. There is active users. There's, so how much would a person using it recommend it to another user? How engaged are people, or user acquisition, right? How many new users came to use my app this month? So there are different metrics that can track your different goals. So while you're prioritizing, you can use the metrics also hand in hand to say, this is what will drive my goal, and this is how I will measure that my feature is doing what it was supposed to do and it's achieving my goal. So, and at the end, summarize that we had to design an edutainment app for kids, and our goal was to increase the engagement of kids on the app. So we focused on kids from this background, and these are their top needs, and these are the solutions that we thought of, but these are the solutions we're focusing on, and so my product would be having this and this, and I would track it using XYZ metrics. So this is how your product design answer should sound like. um, And when you look at this, right, this is what you'll be doing as a PM over many months, but just all squeezed into half an hour. You've got to think through the goals, the solutions, the metrics, and everything about the product. Product design questions are also a great segue for, in my experience, where people just ask more questions about this. So how would you get this implemented with engineering? If they say, oh no, this product, it takes more effort than this, I'm sorry, this feature takes more effort than this, and they want to do this feature instead, how would you convince them to build this instead? And sometimes it also goes a little into the technical aspects of, okay, so what are the different technical modules, like there's also basic things like authentication and storage and so on and so forth, that will come when you design a product like, an edutainment app, right? So they might segue to questions like that. They might go into questions like, these metrics are great, but how will you get user feedback, and what would you do with that feedback, right? So there are so many allied questions that a product design question can trigger once you've done defining your product. And these are all very exciting once you start getting into this mode and trying these out. So yeah, as just like the previous set of questions, it's all about the practice and getting into the mode of solving product design questions. I also have two other sets of questions here, right? What's your favorite product and why? This is another question that I think everybody needs to prepare very well for in advance. Have a mobile app, a website, a physical product, like a smart water bottle or whatever, and a hardware product maybe as well. Um, these four classes, try to have um, a favorite product. And like I said, your why cannot be, oh, Uber is very convenient in taking me from A to B, like you would tell your friend or a family. It needs to be like, oh, this product achieves this goal of blah 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 for these users really well by doing this. In fact, its competitors lack this, but it's got it's doing well because of these reasons, and it's helping me achieve my goal. It also has a good user interface, etc., and all add-ons also can come into play. But as I said, they are looking for your insight, for your depth, right? So just superficial answers of, oh, this is how I would design the product, or this is my favorite product because it's cool, it's fun, is not acceptable. There needs to be depth in anything that you tell in a product manager interview. And yeah, typically you might be asked to even improve that favorite product of yours. What new feature would you introduce in this product? And you do the same thing. Oh, I want to introduce a feature with this as my goal for these people, and these people have these problems, so this is my solution. It's the same, a subset of the same framework again. When you want to add a feature to your favorite product, or when you want to improve your favorite product, or when you want to improve some other product, some other popular product also, you can follow a subset of these, the framework that's here for that. So, yeah, that is about the product design questions. There are also a few other kinds of questions that I don't want to go into detail about, but just for the sake of completion, there are questions related to metrics about how would you set goals for your product. How would you set goals for YouTube, and there's a framework called the GAME framework that you can use for it. You start with, what are the goals that this product should actually be doing? Um, okay, if it's, let's say, users should be engaged, then what are some actions that are relevant to that engagement? It could be posting of videos, it could be comments, it could be likes, it could be subscriptions. So how can I create a metric that counts all of these? And then, yeah, how, well, you have many metrics, so how can I evaluate, which of these to focus on, over how long should I focus on? So yeah, how would you set goals for a product is one type of question. And next, slightly more popular, is product execution questions. What would you do if this happens, to a metric mostly? if Netflix's watch time decreased by 4%, what will you do? You're the PM of Teams. If the daily active users of Teams went down by 2%, what would you do? So these are very interesting questions where you get to do a further root cause analysis on, did it decrease over like a month? Did it decrease suddenly in like a couple of hours? What was the scene like? Was it only in a particular region? Did we release any new code? There are so many a decision tree that you can go into to identify the root cause, after which it becomes uh, pretty straightforward on what you'll have to do after you've identified the cause. And last, there's a go to market sort of question. Should X enter Y market? Should Amazon enter the home services market like Urban Company? Should if Amazon is introducing a Google Photos alternative, how should Google Photos react? Just any any sort of market and positioning related questions, where again the most commonly used framework is a 5 C's framework. You see what is the competition like in that market, what are the customers like, what is their temperature, what is their sensitivity like, which and what is like, should Amazon enter this market? Well, what is Amazon's vision and mission? Is this really in line with that? Collaborators, are there any partners that we can go to market with? And what's the climate like? Is there a recession? Is there some policy that's going to be unfriendly for us? uh, and so on and so forth. So these are the other questions I just want to introduce, so that you have an open ear and you have an open mind when you're preparing to make sure you're covered on these fronts as well. That said, I want to conclude by just going over a few things that are basic for your readiness. First is your resume. Um, this is not your typical I did XYZ, as my it's not a resume where you write your daily functions or your job responsibilities, in your experiences or even in your projects, but you write about the impact and the outcome. So you don't say I used JavaScript and Golang to do blah blah blah, but you say I increased, or like I created a website with XYZ users, uh, for anything that you've done at a professional level, right? So yeah, your the key thing that I think is different from typical engineering resumes is showing impact and outcome for your experiences. The second thing that like I said, you need to prepare is your introduction pitch. Follow the tips and more that you can find online, and have a great less than 2 minute pitch always that you have in your mind. And have a list of your stories structured in a nice way that you can very passionately talk about in your interviews. And definitely have a favorite product across the four categories that I said, and again, that you can passionately talk about in your interview. Well rehearsed, but just be ready with that. And then the product design frameworks, internalize the framework so much so that you're not stuck when you're asked with a product design question, because it's very daunting. When I started looking into what the PM interview was like, and I saw these product design questions, it could be very daunting. Questions like improve WhatsApp, or any sort of such question can be very daunting, and you don't know where to start. But if you have internalized this framework so much, then I think no matter what question is thrown at you, you always know where to start. You have a starting point. I could say, design a rocket ship for aliens, and you still know, okay, let me clarify. When we say a rocket ship, do we mean to transport from Earth to other planets, or when we say an alien, do we mean think beings exist in other planets? Like, ask clarifying questions. As what are your assumption of needs of these personas, right? uh, Clarify them, and so on. So my point is, these frameworks really give you a structure, so that you can answer any question that's thrown at you, so that it becomes only a matter of practice, and not really what question or what product was asked about. um, do as many mock interviews as you can. That's something that definitely helped me. And for mock interviews, it's great that you have a community like this already. It'll be great if you can leverage this community, all of y'all who are trying for product roles. Try mock interviews with your seniors. What I did was there are some Slack communities. There's one by Lewis Lynn, the author of Decode and Conquer, where there are channels for people who are trying out for interviews, who can do mock interviews with each other. That's what I used. This was COVID, and this like not a lot of um, in person or community sense was there. So I used the Slack community to do that. But yeah, just do as many mock interviews as possible, get feedback, and just practice. And a couple of books that I refer to and very popular, anybody who's just even starting to prepare for PM roles would be aware of, is Cracking the PM Interview and Decode and Conquer. Cracking the PM Interview really talks about the roles, the different types of questions with examples and frameworks for each of them. And Decode and Conquer has a lot of examples of questions and how you might want to answer them. So yeah, these are a few of the things that you can do to prepare and have as resources. With that, I am done, and I'll be happy to interact and hear your questions and any comments.
Thanks a lot, Shivani, for sharing your valuable insights. Guys, any questions? Oh yes, we have one from Kalaimani. Okay. So PM jobs are more stressful or intensive than sorry, intensive than software core jobs. Since you worked on both, what are your views on this?
I think that's a great question, an interesting question. Based on my experience, right? It depends on what causes you stress. Is it is doing something that you know you're not innately passionate about, you don't thrive in, that's causing you stress? Then I think that's a different question. For some people like me, having a bug and not knowing like how to solve it with a deadline could be stressful. Um, but as a PM, the stress is about you're accountable. If the product you're the one who says what goes into the product. So if the product didn't succeed, then you're going to be the one that it's traced back to. But I mean, I'm kidding. It's not that you're going to be fired if the product fails. So it's pretty less stressful when you're in a it's not your own startup, when you're product managing in a company. You do have that cushion and comfort. So I although as a new product manager, even I take up that stress of all that accountability and ownership that's on me. That is the part that feels stressful compared to the software or core job that I was doing. But yeah, I think it's a very very personal answer, right? I feel like I'm thriving in my product management role, uh, given that I tried software as well, and I've had a long history of doing coding and software internships and jobs. And now that I moved to PM, I'm very glad I did. I feel I'm thriving. I don't think it's stressful for me because I love what I'm doing. Intensive, I think in the industry, it's any job, it's as intensive as you want it to be. If you want to even as a software engineer, uh, it could be less intensive because you're given, hey, write this code, and complete your code and you're done, or you complete the design and architecture, you're done. But as a PM, it's an open ended thing, right? There's no amount of uh, content that can stop you from reading about a particular thing or a particular approach. It's very open ended. So it because there's no boundary, it can feel intensive. But for any role, it's absolutely in your hands. If you want to keep outdoing yourself, outdoing your peers, and you want to go deeper into anything and go more intense, then it's a very personal choice. So yeah, my view is that for me personally, I don't feel stressed being a PM. I am more comfortable and I feel thriving as a PM. And I am doing a more intensive job as a PM because, like I said, right, I want to explore all of those things and write a new white paper about another area that is adjacent to the product that I'm doing. So it's pretty personal and I like it. Next question: do you recommend going for an MEM or MBA degree and acquiring work experience before getting into PM? I think there are two things here, which is going for an MEM or MBA degree and acquiring a work experience. I think both are different, right? Getting a degree is one thing, acquiring work experience is another thing. Before getting into PM, so that's a great question. Let me answer the first part about getting a degree before getting into a PM. I did not get an MEM or an MBA degree, and I work with peers who are MBA grads, MEM grads. So you don't need it, and I haven't felt the need even as I work with them. I think we all learn on the job, even your core jobs. I think more than what you learn in BTech, you're going to be learning on the job. So I personally don't recommend going for an MEM or an MBA degree, especially now that we have companies, I think, coming to campus also for PM roles. And there are so many APM roles, etc., that are opening up for people without MEMs and MBAs to get into PM if you know you want to get into PM. About the work experience, personally, the experience that I had as a software engineer definitely helped me before I, moved into PM. Now, when I talk to engineers, I know the language. I get the respect and the trust because they know I've done this before. So the work experience definitely helped me. But I know a lot of. I had less than 2 years of full time work experience as a software engineer before I did PM. I know people who've done 7 to 10 years of other things and then an MBA and then a PM. I know people who have not done anything and joined straight out of college also as a PM. And I had only 2 years. I think that's also fine. So I think it's important to have some sort of experience before getting into PM. And of course, the more the experience, the better. But after a threshold, it's useless. After I think 4 or 5 years, you've seen everything. There's not a lot that you gain, in terms of work experience. But in anything under 2 years, right? 0 to 2 years, it's all about how much of experience were you able to put into it itself. So for me, within 1.5 years of engineering experience itself, I had done a lot of things, from doing projects from scratch to designing to working with geo distributed teams, releasing to millions of people, so on and so forth. I tried to get such varied experience within my 1.5 years itself. Now, with all the means that you folks have, if you can do that in college itself, through your internships, through your pet projects, if you are able to commit to doing something on the side for 6 months, then that side project could be your work experience, if you worked with a team on that. So it's about not the duration of your work experience, but the intensity and quality of your work experience. Because what I did in 1.5 years is something people typically might even take 10 years to do because of the opportunities that you get. What you do in 6 months in college could be something that I may have never done, right? Starting up something or working intensively on a project with a team for 6 months. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think an MEM or an MBA degree is necessary or recommended before getting into PM, especially in today's day and age where you have so many opportunities to go into PM without them. And acquiring work experience is definitely useful. Whether what is the duration of that work experience, whether you can do that in your college studies itself or you want to work for a year and a half, two, is depending on how much of intensity of experience can you gather in that time. um, I'm having trouble choosing between software development and PM. I enjoy the technical aspect of coding. However, the ideation part of product management seems interesting too. What factors should I consider, and would it be easy to switch in the future? Great question. Very personal question also. I was in the same boat. I enjoy the technical aspects of coding as well. I loved my major in computer science. Um, my choice was to, I strongly believe in getting your hands dirty, knowing what you're talking about. So I personally thought that I had to develop software as a software developer before I go on to the ideation and telling people to develop software. This was my philosophy and why I chose software development first and then shifted to PM. But I would say that it doesn't matter, honestly, whether you do software engineering for a year or two and then go to PM, or do PM now itself. Uh, if you think, this ideation interests you, the product management and all the skills that I spoke about interests you, and you want to do it now itself, it's great. If you do software engineering for a few years and then do PM, I'm sure you'll not regret it, especially because you enjoy the technical aspects. And I mean, if your worry is, am I late to product management, I think this it's I understand why it might feel so in college. I've been there. But once you're here, you realize you have a career of 30 plus years. So a few years doing something else really doesn't matter. Just go with the flow. If you um, want to give software engineering a shot, give it a shot. I knew that I couldn't keep coding forever or even for a few more years, right? I saw these people around me, brilliant coders. They live, breathe code. Like, I see them thrive when they are coding, and I knew that was not me. I knew I was more interested in techno managerial things. So I wouldn't have regretted had I started doing product management first itself. But I'm also happy the way it turned out for me to do have a really good software engineering career and then leverage all the contacts and the connects that I gained there to my product management. So yeah, it wouldn't be too much of a hassle, like irrespective of what you take, especially because you do enjoy coding. What factors should I consider, and would it be easy to switch in the future? You can switch from a software engineer to a product manager at any time, but switching from a product manager to a software engineer is a little hard after some time, right? Because if you've if if you keep coding every day on a day, and then you move to a role like a product manager where you're not coding for a while, then after a year, I think anybody who's not coded for a year can say that it takes a lot for you to come back to uh, that mode. So industry wise, the trend is that software engineers become product managers almost never become software engineers. But that said, if you are a very passionate software engineer who wanted to try out PM and you were always coding on the side anyway, then it's totally possible for you to come back to SWE. The industries today, I can definitely speak for Microsoft. It's a very case to case and a common sense basis thing. It's not any hard and fast rules. Like, it's not a hard rule that you had to have an MBA to be a PM. If you uh, Although that was something that I thought was true before, because back then even companies were not coming to recruit PMs, right? But when I actually met people and met these hiring managers, did I know that they are just looking for these skills. So if you can show those skills, then they're going to take you. So this holds for software engineer or PM. If you can show that you got it, it's easy to switch at any point. On an average, what's the difference in growth and salary between an SD and a PM? It's a great question. Salary, in my experience, there's no difference, and I can tell about the Microsoft way of salaries, and I think this is how other big tech also works based on my interactions with PMs there. So in Microsoft, right, when you join as a new college undergrad, you join in a level called 59, and then there's a level called 60, 61. That's how it goes. So whether you join as a software engineer or a product manager, you join at level 59, and then there's a senior software engineer, there's a senior product manager. Both of them get paid the same. They are at the same level. They are typically same years of experience. So Salary at a particular level is the same for both software engineer and PM at Microsoft. And I think it is the case in most big tech as well. Difference in growth is a very interesting question, and I think it's again pretty personal. For instance, I know that I wouldn't have grown this much if I were in software engineering because, like I said, I know that these people are, you know, after a certain point, I think it doesn't come very naturally to me. These people who are so passionate about coding and so savvy at it can definitely do more in the limited time and hence grow faster than me. Whereas as a PM, I know that I have these, unique skills that make me stand out as a PM, because of which I can grow faster in this track. So there's one aspect of a personal, where do you thrive better? Where do you put up more? Which comes more effortlessly to you, and hence where can you do more to show more to grow more? That is one cause of difference, and so the answer is it depends on which you're better at. If you're a better engineer, then you can grow faster as an engineer. I'm a better PM, I can grow faster as a PM. Another point to consider is one PM typically works with 25 plus engineers, or at least 10 plus engineers. So the scope of work that you work as a PM is way more than the scope of work that you work as a engineer, right? You work on one part of a feature, implementing it as an engineer, but as a product manager you can like spec the entire feature or even a bunch of features. So with that, in that sense, the scope of impact is more for a product manager, and hence the growth is almost always proportional to the scope of your impact. And hence I've seen product managers typically grow faster. uh, and your visibility is also higher because you're at a higher level of the product than the smaller level at which an engineer works. But yeah, so for that reason, I have seen product managers grow faster, but at the end, it's how good are you able to do that, which is what results in your growth in your career. Um, you told about showing your work. Can you tell in what way we should do it? Does it need to be professional? Um, I'm not sure if this is about. Okay, this is not exactly an interview, right? You may not be able to open up your blog or open up your LinkedIn and show in an interview, but if you have done when publishing work helps for two reasons. One is your work is good enough and up to that standard such that you're confident of publishing it, and when it is up to that standard, it gives you good proper stories to tell during your interview, which are which make sense, which don't seem like they're not true, right? So that is what I mean by showing your work. You can show it by talking about it. You can put it out there somewhere. If and again, if it depends on if it's a really professional end-to-end project that you've done and you've put it on GitHub, then that is one way you can show it. Or you can write a blog about it. You can write a LinkedIn post about it. So these are the things that I mean when I say showing your work. Does it need to be professional? So if it is up to that standard, if where it can be published in any of these forums, then that. Otherwise, I think if it's not something that can be put into a blog or a GitHub repo or or your website, then I think it's more about talking about it genuinely, about the genuine work that you've done. Can you explain about product teardown? Sure. It's just an exercise where you take a product and analyze the different aspects of its design, its users, right? Like who are the users, who are the majority of the users of a product, what are the most used features, what are the least used features, why did a feature come to existence in the first place, how can it be improved further, uh, for the same feature, what is the competitor doing, uh, like how can the UI be made better, why is this UI good or why is it bad, yeah, what are the hooks in the product that they're keeping to keep you engaged, what are the bad parts of the experience, just tearing down a product is what I meant by product tear
Thank you,
down.
Shivani. I think Satyamurthy has a question. Uh, Satyamurthy, are you there? Satya, are you able to speak now?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, Shivani. My
Yeah.
name is Murthy. I'm BTech fourth year CSC student. And first of all, thank you for taking this wonderful session. It was really helpful. Uh, I'll be joining as a SD in Microsoft in coming June. I'm really interested in product management. So my doubt is like, should we mention this to our managers? Like our goal is to shift to PM. And how did you handle this? Like, did it really impact your career?
That's a great question, Satya. Um, so it depends on when you want to tell your manager. Of course, you will have to tell it before moving teams. I did so. I have always been active in things that were beyond software engineering. Even as an SDE at Microsoft, I was, you know, doing these initiatives across teams, doing diversity initiatives, hackathons and so on, which was not a typical software. And I was giving talks and conducting sessions on communication and public speaking. So my manager always knew that I had this parallel thread running. So it also very dependent on your manager. If they are there are most managers at Microsoft are very supportive of your careers. You as a person come first and then the work and things that need to be done. So yeah, most managers are supportive and you can always talk about your career aspirations to them. uh, like I could talk about master MBA plan, like whether to get an MBA or not, whether I want to shift to product management, many other things, shifting to different teams, etc. So yeah, how I took it is um, I told my manager that my passion lies in product management, and so I wanted to move teams. And I one thing I always stress on is do your engineering. If you're starting off as an engineer, do your engineering job really well. So I had my manager tell very nice things about the work I did as an engineer to the teams that I was interviewing with, so that that adds on to your proposition, because these are all transferable skills, and your work ethic, your attitude uh, is going to be this is going to be assumed to be the same, right?
Right.
So yeah, mostly you will have an understanding manager to whom you can talk very candidly about your career aspirations. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for clearing.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions? All right. With that, we come to an end with our final guest lecture of our product week. Thanks so much, Shivani. Thank you so much for your time. It's such a valuable session. And yes, as aspiring product managers who are looking to get into this industry, this has been a very crucial session for us to understand what the interview process is like and how we can prepare ourselves being from college. With that, I hope each and every one of you has found this session very insightful, and feel free to reach out to us in case you have any questions. And yes, guys, stay tuned for upcoming events. And yeah, we have some exciting stuff planned for you out this summer. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot, Shivani. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you so much for organizing this. Bye bye.
Thank you.